We're live with Lunch Break Live. Take it away, Dahlia and James, married to health. Let's get cooking.
All right. Hi, everybody. My name is James Marin. I'm an integrative registered dietitian.
I'm Dahlia Marin. I'm a registered dietitian nutritionist. I specialize in gut health with a special affinity for irritable bowel syndrome, SIBO, and plant-based nutrition.
We are going to get cooking today. We're making, technically the recipe is Egyptian breakfast beans, but this could be eaten for breakfast, brunch, lunch, and dinner.
Mm-hmm.
It is one of our favorite recipes, very easy to make and extremely nutritious.
And in Arabic, it's called ful. So
yes.
You just learned an Arabic word there.
Yes. And Dahlia is fluent in Arabic. So we're going to get cooking. Now, there is some preparation. So if you're looking for this recipe, it'll be linked here. If you're signed up for the email blast, you can find it on marriedtohealth.com. You can find this recipe. You'll definitely find it. But it will take some prep. So the day before, we like to use dried fava beans. For those of you that have never seen fava beans, here they are. And we soak them overnight to really soak in that hydration to get them nice and full.
These are broad fava beans. So you might find fava beans of different sizes. These ones are flatter and thinner, but quite large. So they're one of the largest beans, meaning that they are going to be higher fiber, higher protein, but also require longer to soak. So that's why we got them soaking last night. And we pre-prepped that. We soaked them in a little bit of baking soda. You can also use apple cider vinegar, but you definitely want to pre-soak them, especially if you want them to be easier to digest, which we'll get into talking about.
Yes. And now we would recommend this beautiful Instant Pot, or there's many types of pressure cookers out there. Ours isn't technically an Instant Pot anymore. We have the Ninja here, but it is a pressure cooker that will cut the cooking time by, exponentially less time. So what would take maybe a couple of hours to boil on your stove, you are taking maybe 10 to 15 minutes to cook in a pressure cooker. So what you'll do is you'll soak your beans, which the measurements are given in the recipe, but you'll soak your beans. We like to do a big batch. So we are making a fairly big batch. That way we have those leftovers. We love having leftovers. We're going to add it to your pressure cooker. Again, you can do this over the stove. It's just going to be for a longer time. And if you're like, how much time? It'll vary. But like I said, it could be a couple of hours. It'll be a couple of minutes boiling and then a couple of hours on a low simmer where it's cooking. You can kind of check in and test it, see how soft it is. If it's nice and soft, it's ready to go. With a pressure cooker, you're going to put the beans in like Dahlia just did. You're going to add your water. So it's roughly a little bit under double the water. So you're going to be cooking it there like Dahlia is.
I put in 4 cups of beans, and this is 6 cups of water.
Right. So we're going to pressure cook it there on high for about 8 minutes. So you're setting it for 8 minutes. It will take time to build up. For those of you familiar with pressure cookers, you're like, great, I got it. For those of you that aren't, it takes some time to build up some steam. It's going to take some time to actually start cooking. And then the 7 or 8 minutes will start, and then you're done, right? So with the magic here, we have some already cooked. Wow, look at that, right? Ready to go. Look how easy and quick that was. So these are cooked. However, we're not done yet, right? So these are just plain cooked fava beans, and that's great. But now here comes the magic. Now here comes the recipe aspect, right? So as you're getting ready to cook, I would say start with mashing or cutting your garlic. Why do you want to do that? With garlic, when you're smashing it, when you're cutting it, you're going to release more of the magic in garlic. You're going to release that beautiful allicin. It's going to help, antioxidant. It's going to help with your gut health, balancing healthy microbes in your gut. So a lot of studies show start cutting your garlic first, leave it there. If it's sitting for at least 15 minutes, you're releasing all that great allicin as much as possible.
So you can chop and stop with garlic. And you might be watching this and you might be like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Garlic, beans, I can't tolerate those. And I hear that on a daily basis working with patients who might have IBS, irritable bowel syndrome, SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. And so I'll be coming in with tips to make this more gut friendly if you are experiencing any of that discomfort. So maybe you have been told you should try eating low FODMAP, so less fermentable foods. We started out with 2 high FODMAP foods. If you're watching this, then perhaps maybe you're not there yet. If you are doing low FODMAP, hopefully you're doing it with guidance, so you're not unnecessarily cutting things out for prolonged periods of time. those carbohydrates, the fiber, the sugars that are naturally found in some of these foods that are higher FODMAP, meaning they're more fermentable, these are super nutrient dense ingredients. So if you do tolerate them, eat them. If you are not yet tolerating them, work your way up to tolerating them. So maybe temporarily you're cutting back on onions and garlic, which are a couple of the ingredients that we have here, some beans. So if you are low FODMAP, maybe you're not using chopped garlic, you're not doing the chop and stop, maybe you're using garlic oil. So garlic infused oil that has the flavor of garlic, but doesn't actually have pieces of the garlic clove in it, since garlic might make you a little bit bloated. If you are low FODMAP, then maybe you're using a different type of bean. Maybe you're doing a chickpea, or maybe you're doing a lentil. So you could also make this an Egyptian take on a chickpea scramble or on a lentil. So traditionally we're using fava beans, which, like I said, they're one of the highest fiber beans, one of the higher protein beans, high FODMAP bean as well. But maybe you're not there yet. So work your way up if that's the case. We've made them more digestible simply by soaking them. So maybe you're like, I'm not full-blown IBS, but sometimes I get bloated and gassy when I eat beans. You can cut that down. One of the types of starch in beans called stachyno starch, it is going to be higher in the bean if you don't soak them. So soaking them overnight, rinsing out that water, you will rinse out a lot of that starch that's in there. So that's less likely to make you bloated. Maybe you're histamine intolerant. Also, soaking dried beans overnight is the way to go if you want to be eating beans. So those little tips that we just gave you can make beans a little bit more digestible. Soaking them in baking soda, like I mentioned, apple cider vinegar. If you want to take it a step further and you have more time, maybe you soaked them and then you're sprouting them. That can also make them more digestible.
All right, so our garlic has been sitting. We're going to add our garlic. Again, you don't have to let it sit. We're going to be adding, I like to add the garlic first and the onion so the beans really take on those flavors. We're going to add our onions here and go with, look, you can go with what we say. You can go with what you like and go with your taste. So we want to taste as we go along. So we're adding our garlic and onions. We're going to add about a half teaspoon of salt here. We are using a pink rock salt. You might use sea salt. You might use iodized salt, which all are great. We're adding our paprika. So this is really where the magic is coming in. We're adding our cumin. Now, cumin is one of my favorite really spices. It just adds a great flavor, such a unique flavor. It is used a lot of Mediterranean, Egyptian, Middle Eastern. I mean, that's really what gives it that wonderful, unique flavor. So next, I'm going to add lemon. So you can use a nice little lemon squeezer. I have a built-in lemon squeezer. My hands, I like to use my hands when I'm cooking. So I'm adding my lemon juice, and you can smell and start to just understand this flavor profile that's building here. It is a very light, citrusy, just aromatic is one of my favorite words that I use when I'm cooking, because you can just smell this garlic, you can smell the cumin, you can smell the lemon. It is just so wonderful to just smell these things. And this is part of getting your body ready to digest, which Dahlia can talk more about while I'm adding this stuff. So that's great.
So not only is the lemon serving as a lubricant, if you will, for the beans, because we will partially mash the beans as well. We added back a little bit more of the bean water after these beans were cooked to also give it that kind of that effect. But like James said, adding in lemon will help to start that digestive process. So that bitterness, we're starting the digestive process not only by adding in these ingredients, but he and I right now, we're smelling these ingredients. So when you're cooking food, just smelling it, seeing it, touching it, that lets your body know, hey, get ready to start eating. So you will start making stomach acid and you will start preparing digestive juices in the digestive process as you're even just seeing, smelling, touching, feeling food. But lemon certainly can help with that stomach acid production. So this meal, we're trying to make it as gut friendly, as digestible as we possibly can.
Yes.
And like James said, he likes it partially mashed. So you might want to cook the beans longer if you want to partially mash them. I like them whole. So we kind of met in the middle and we made them partially mashable, partially not mashable. So we didn't cook them for too long, but like I said, some people like it mashed almost like a pinto bean texture. Some people like them half whole, half mashed. So either way will suffice. But all these flavors and these herbs and these spices, they are working together and they're increasing antioxidants. So you might be thinking, okay, well, What about oxalates? We get this question often as well. What about oxalates and lectins in beans? I heard from an internet doctor that those are bad for me and that those are anti-nutrients. So that must mean that they're bad. Not quite so. So lectins, phytates, oxalates, these have antioxidant components in them. They have amino acid protein building block components in them. So there is benefit to having these foods in your diet. It's how is your gut going to handle them? Do you have the sufficient amount of oxalobacter bacteria and other bacteria that break down oxalates? So that way you're not ending up with things like oxalate kidney stones. Do you have proper gut bacteria to help digest some of these foods? So these are all questions that you want to be asking yourself and not saying, well, those are gassy foods. You want to say, why am I a gassy person? And how can I help support my gut health a little bit better?
I'm going to continue. I just want to tell you what I'm adding: some green onions on top. And now really the other ingredients are mixed in. The flavors are really mixed in. And again, taste along the way. Parsley is another great flavor that you're adding. It just adds another layer of that fresh. It's really refreshing. I know that's a weird thing to say when you're eating food. It's usually something you say when you're drinking, but food can be refreshing. And parsley really gives it that hydrating, refreshing. Again, speaking along those lines, chopped cucumber we're going to add on top. Like that. Delicious.
And these are
tomato,
lower FODMAP ingredients that James is adding in. So if you are making this with chickpeas instead of fava beans, you can still add the cucumbers, you can still add the tomatoes, the parsley. You can still do these green onion tops. These green onion tops are low FODMAP. The bulb, the white bulb in the lower part is not. So if you do have IBS, you're having tummy troubles, and you don't want it to make you bloated and gassy, then perhaps for now, until you've worked your way back up and you're tolerating those foods, maybe you're leaving out the onion, you're doing instead garlic oil. Maybe you're using something called asafoetida powder, and that's another type of herb, another type of powder that you can utilize. And it does taste like onion and it tastes like garlic. You can find that at usually Indian stores, but international markets should have that. So you can learn to make it both ways, gut friendly, not gut friendly.
And now we're just continuing to mix.
But it's all gut friendly. I don't want to say that. Bloat friendly or regular gut friendly. So it's all gut friendly. But if you're wanting to make it less likely to bloat you.
And that's where, that's where all of our guts are different, right? We always say, like, to our patients, we all look like fingers, but we all have different fingerprints, right? And so you look like, oh, my hand's the same as your hand. But if you look closer, no, that's not the case. So that's really how our gut is. We really have a gut microbiome fingerprint. It's all unique. It's all different. So we need to approach it in different ways. What I'm doing now is just mixing. Again, the smells are amazing. We have some pita here. You may choose to eat pita. There's gluten-free pita. This is a whole grain pita. You can also get whole grain gluten-free. So no matter what, you're still getting your whole grains. If you eat gluten, if you don't eat gluten, wonderful. We're warming that up because traditionally you're eating this in a nice pita bread. So you're using the pita to kind of get the beans, get all the ingredients, soak up this beautiful liquid that you see in here with all these flavors, and just eating this. Like I said, we like this for a nice brunch. We typically don't break our fast and have breakfast, right, until about 10 or 11 anyway. So we're typically eating brunch. So this is one of our daughter's favorite foods. She always asks her giddo, which is Arabic for grandfather, to make this for her, and he usually does, because who can say no to their little granddaughter? And so we're eating this with pita. The pita is all ready. This is all just mixed, and you see the hardest part is really just cooking the beans, right? Because after that, you're just adding the ingredients together. So there are the beans. There's the different cucumbers, tomato, parsley. You got all your spices, and it's smelling delicious, and it's ready to now eat and enjoy. And so we have our pita here. And yeah, Dahlia just sliced. You just rip it up. Like, just get your hands, rip it, open it up. And so you see, I don't know if you see that steam coming out. So it's nice and hot. And so typically you can scoop it in. Traditionally, you're just eating it with your hands. You're just ripping off pieces and just dipping it in and eating it.
Tortilla and beans.
Right. But here's another cool way when your pita is just nice and steamy and fresh from the oven, and you just fill it up like that, and it's nice and ready to go.
And other things you can add to
Delicious.
this. You can add a lettuce in here to give it additional
Yes.
fiber, a nice crunch. So that's also a traditional way that it's eaten, with added lettuce. Oftentimes it's eaten with pickled vegetables like pickled turnips, pickled radishes, pickled onion. So that would be a great thing to put on top. We know that pickled foods are amazing for your gut health. There was a great study that just came out of Stanford that showed that eating up to even 6 servings a day of pickled and fermented vegetables are really great for your gut. They have that probiotic healthy bacteria in them. So those are things that we've traditionally eaten in my culture. I grew up eating this. James now, he's an honorary Egyptian. We call him a Egyptian.
Yeah, Mexican Egyptian.
But James now has quite taken
I'm actually
to eating food and eating fava beans. So there we go. And like James said, if you are gluten sensitive,
So good.
you could use a gluten-free pita. You could also use a gluten-free tortilla if you don't have gluten-free pita. But wheat and gluten are higher FODMAP. So again, if you're making this bloat friendly, you could instead use something that is gluten-free.
Yes. So there you have it, guys. What a quick and easy recipe. I think when we're talking about fava beans as well, manganese, iron, the protein content, so the amino acid content is excellent. When you're talking about plant-based eating, you really want to get a lot of these things. And it is amazing to get all these flavor profiles and nutrition profiles in one dish. And that's what we're all about, is diversifying your dish. So you're not just like, oh, I'm going to eat beans, and you're just eating beans, right? Make these Egyptian breakfast beans, and you're getting all these antioxidants, you're getting these proteins, you're getting these great different types of pectins and fibers, prebiotics and I would say probiotics. Hopefully you got the probiotics in your gut that are going to eat the prebiotics. Fermented foods, like Dahlia said. So you can even elevate this even further, like she said, with pickled vegetables or fermented vegetables. Put it in the pita pocket, and man, you can eat this all day. I know I can, for sure. So yeah, we love this as one of our favorites. And like Dahlia mentioned, if you're struggling and being like, I wish I could eat that, if you're watching this live or later on, you're being like, man, I wish I could eat that. But even when I look at a bean, I get bloated and gassy. That is something definitely you want to address. So that is really what we specialize in our practice. That is why we kind of make these recipes and do what we do, is to help you getting back to eating a variety of plant foods. That is our mantra, is heal with each meal. So you're using your food to really give you a baseline of health and healing. And you're not like, oh, I wish I could eat that, or I can't eat this, I can't eat that. Nation diets. And you're like, great, I eliminated just fine. And now I can't get back to what I eliminated, right? Like, how can I get back? And that's really where Dahlia comes in. Dahlia is like our lead dietitian who does all that great stuff. So yeah, you've seen, we don't have leftovers. We made, like I said, a huge batch of this. We're going to continue making this and have a huge batch. And that's also another factor you want to take into it. When you make our recipes, multiply it by 2, multiply it by 5, multiply it by 10, however big your family is, and use it for the week, right? We're not always cooking every day. We run our practice. We do these cool lunch break lives. We do a lot of fun stuff. We have a 7-year-old. Yeah. So you don't have to cook every single day. Batch cook, and then just bring out the beans and all these fresh ingredients whenever you can. And it's great.
If you want this recipe, you can go on our website right now, marriedtohealth.com, and it is under blogs. You can search for it. It's Egyptian breakfast beans. We also have this recipe in our ebook. So we have a good gut A to Z, because we wanted to just help people learn, 1, how to heal with each meal, which is our motto, and 2, learn how to incorporate more of a diverse variety of foods into their life. You know, this concept of food combining is out there. People always ask us about it. The food combining you should be doing is what we just did right now, combining a diversity of ingredients. That is going to help you have the best, most robust gut health. It might take you a while to build up to there, but patience is key. So that way you can have great gut health. And I say this as someone who used to have IBS, used to have tons of gut issues, And now I eat things like this all the time without any issues. But if you want over 100 recipes, we do have an ebook also on our website, Married to Health. Our Good Gut A to Z is available. We have a special code for you all. It is
Lunch Break Live. So put in code Lunch Break Live, you will get a discount on our e-guide, which has this recipe and more. So you can start playing around and incorporating it. And guys, our taste buds are probably different from your taste buds. So if you're like, I don't eat garlic, leave out the garlic. Maybe try leeks or shallots. If you're like, I don't do fava beans, I'd rather do chickpeas, great. Do chickpeas, experiment, try, mix and match, do all that great stuff. And yeah, make it your own for sure. We always say our recipes are just a template and you can follow it to the T, or you can make it your own. And we highly, highly recommend making it your own. Because like I said, my taste buds are not your taste buds. And my gut health isn't your gut health, right? We're all those unique fingerprints. So definitely keep it unique, add your own twist, make that, if you want that Egyptian food like we're making, go for it. Use a tortilla instead of a pita, you know, just, put that spin on it however you like, especially when it comes to your health. Yeah.
And we had a couple great comments. Yeah, hummus would go great with this. So hummus is a staple in Egyptian culture. So I grew up, and I didn't grow up vegan. We have been vegan plant-based for over 10 years now, but I grew up in my household, I grew up in a Coptic Orthodox household. So in our culture and in our religion, they'll do fasting. So for half of the year growing up, at various times, I would be either vegan or pescatarian. So we would eat these things regularly. We would eat hummus with it. We would have falafel with it, pita bread. So a lot of these Mediterranean foods that you're all familiar with, they're very gut friendly if you work your way up to them. So there are ways, there are tips and tricks. Like I shared today, James and I shared things like soaking and sprouting and cooking in baking soda, apple cider vinegar, a couple of swaps to make. So that way you're not completely restricting and you're not saying, I can't eat beans. You're maybe saying, I'm eating some of the less fermentable beans. Maybe that's chickpeas, lentils, mung beans, butter beans, a couple of these other low FODMAP beans. Maybe you're keeping your portion of the bean a little smaller until you work your gut health up to a bigger portion. You're working your way up to tolerating the fermented foods. And if you really find yourself struggling and you find yourself backed into a corner where you really don't feel like you can eat a wide variety of foods, reach out to a dietitian, reach out to a gastroenterologist, someone who can really help support you along that journey. Because I do have patients who unfortunately often come to me and they say, I went vegan, I was bloated, I went raw vegan. And once I tried to transition away and start reintroducing cooked foods, I wasn't able to tolerate them at all. So if you find yourself in that position, or maybe not, maybe you've just found I can only tolerate these 5 or 6 foods, reach out to someone so that way we can get diversity back into your life as soon as possible. Because what's good for your gut is good for your brain, is good for your blood sugar, is good for your cholesterol, is good for your entire body, for your whole family.
And we just want to say, guys, we want to make it very, very clear. Your gut is not staying still. It's always in motion. And studies have shown, again, every single meal can shape your gut. Every round of antibiotics can totally shape your gut. So we are shaping our gut with every breath, with every meal, with every medication or supplement. So there is definitely better paths to go down. Think of your gut like modified skin cells. Think of when you get a cut on your skin, how quickly does your skin heal? That's how quickly your gut lining can heal. And so if you're thinking like, man, I'm really stuck, I'm down a hole, you don't have to stay there, right? That is really our big message. So you can use food, you can use your healthy, great providers, you can sometimes use supplements and other great things to help you begin to heal and reshape your gut microbiome, reshape your gut microbiota, and really start to add more of these foods. The really cool thing is each food has its own microbiome. A lot of us don't realize that. Every time you grow an orange in your backyard or a fig, or you go to the store or the farmer's market, you are getting the microbes that live in the tissue of the food, that live on the food. And then you're also supporting the root system of that tree or that bush or that root vegetable, let's say a potato, right? Who's really, really in tune with the root microbiome. You're getting access to all these 3 levels of the microbiome in the environment through your food. And that is really where you are seeding your own gut microbiota. So really important to get those sources and understand you can shape your microbiota, right? So
we've heard, over the years, right, there have been big vegan influencers who have said, I got SIBO, I have IBS, so I had to start eating fish and eggs again. That could be someone's choice, if that works for them. But if you are someone who's an ethical vegan and you don't want to incorporate those foods back into your life, then working with someone who can support you along that journey, learning more about why you're not tolerating fiber and why you feel better when you don't eat fiber is key. I know some people think, well, I just have to stop being vegan because vegan's too high fiber. Everyone, no matter if they're an omnivore, no matter what type of eating pattern that they're on, everyone should be eating and tolerating fiber. And so you want to ask yourself, am I having a balanced plant-based way of eating? Am I nutrient deficient in key things for the gut and my entire body, like B vitamins, omega-3, vitamin D? We know that B12, omega-3, vitamin D, all people who are on a plant-based diet really should be taking at minimum those 3 things. So you want to ask yourself, am I nutrient deficient? Am I able to eat a wide diversity of foods so I'm not nutrient deficient? How can I support my motility in that way? Do I have anything in my health story that has happened that might be preventing me from eating more of a variety of foods? I think people expect that whatever they ate today or yesterday, that's how they should feel. But if you have baggage that you're bringing into this lifestyle and this way of eating, you might need to work with someone to unpack that, or you might need to unpack that yourself to understand why you're not able to tolerate a wider diversity of fiber. So lack of symptoms is not necessarily abundant health. It just means that you're avoiding the problem. And James gives this analogy that it's kind of like getting into really serious debt, but just ripping up the bills every time they come to your house. And you can tell yourself, I'm not in debt anymore. But you know that if you try to go buy a car or if you try to take out a loan, the debt is still there. So just because you avoid fiber and you feel better that way, it doesn't mean that your problems are solved. So we always encourage people get to the root and try to figure out why you might not be tolerating fiber.
Yeah, I saw a comment come in like, stop being vegan. I think someone maybe heard something wrong. No, we're not saying stop being vegan. We're saying get to your root causes, work with a practitioner who's plant-based, who's vegan like us, and get to the root so you don't have to stop being vegan. Just want to clarify that because I saw that come in. So yeah, that's what we're saying. And Dahlia gave that analogy, like it's like debt, right? Don't avoid your debt. You're not just you can't hide from it, right? So you have to address it head on. And
Wow.
Yeah.
This has just been such a mind-blowing, gut supportive Lunch Break Live. I want to take us back to the bowl and the pitas because those are gorgeous. On our way out, again, you can find Dahlia and James at Married to Health. Get the ebook. What a generous offer. Get the discount you all want. Microbiome health forever, and help your family and friends. Share this out. This has been just so incredible. Thank you both for your generous just sharing today and education. And these are your support system right here, y'all, for the future of your health. Thank you, everybody, for joining us here on Lunch Break Live, and we'll see you next time. Bye.